Hello, everybody, and a happy Friday. Welcome to your daily lighting critique. As I was just saying, it's July 30th. It just snuck up on us at the end of the month here. It's our last critique before the submissions of the July lighting challenge. It's our winter cabin scene. So make sure you guys get those posted tomorrow. I won't make the announcement for the new one until Monday, mostly because we're going to be doing another animation test with the Griffin Academy. And it's going to be a 2-month challenge. So it's going to be a little bit bigger. But I'm really excited about the animation. I think it's very cool. We're gathering up all the assets now, and we'll have that ready for you guys on Monday. Yes. Okay, so let's go ahead and hop into some of our images here. So I'm just going to go through alphabetically here. There were a couple of late submissions, so they got thrown out of the alphabetical listing, but everybody else should be in the alphabetical order here at the top. So we're going to start off with Amy. So Amy, this is looking good. I think that the biggest thing is I think we're still missing some, especially in the fill side of his skin, it's still missing some warmth. Like he just feels very green. His skin also feels a little bit plastic. Like I think the specularity is a little bit too high, and I would love to feel like it's interesting because we have extreme subsurface scattering on his ears. Like this stuff is too strong, but then in the main part of his skin, it feels like a hard plastic. So it's like finding a little bit more of a balance there. More about it being subsurface, like a softness to the material in the core, and less about like the backscatter stuff coming through. And then because I was kind of looking at this versus the one that I created, and again. And like this isn't the end all be all or anything, but just looking at this in terms of reference for like the warmth of his skin in the shadows, getting that light to dark fall off, because again, it's like this cheek to this cheek does not quite feel like there's that light to dark transition yet. So I'd like to continue pushing that. And then at one point we had a pretty good rim on him. It was just too strong. I think we could possibly bring that back. So I think maybe for next steps for next week, if you can't, that's totally fine. If you could render out like your, depending on how many lights you have, I would say if you could just render out like each light individually, and we can take a look at it with balancing. Because I think what's happening is my guess is that the fill might be too strong, but what I like to do is I like to just take the individual components and build them together anew, so we can kind of balance out where they are, because it doesn't feel like a light position problem as much as it feels like a balancing problem and perhaps some shader adjustment stuff. So we can take a look at that next week. But I think and then also watch out for the specularity on his jacket. I had to pull that off in mine too. But yeah, yes, and then. Same deal with the eyes. Just it's just his marble eyes. They get really dark at points and really contrasty. Like the light to dark variation on them is really high. So we'll have to watch out for that too. Okay, so next up we have Julia, and who's in a very hot Italy right now. We just found out. And so this is your updated version. Let me go ahead and combine this with the previous one, so we can kind of A/B them pretty quickly. So new, previous. I love that little bit of blue inside the house. I think that really helps. It's just like it's just like speaking to the collection of things building up in there. There's a little bit of darkening that you did right up here, which looks really nice too. Let's go ahead and do that again. So I think and like a little additional, like basically you hit all the notes that we were talking about. In the last iteration, the water's a little bit darker too. I'm wondering. So one thing about lighting a very large object like these mountains in the background is you want to find, because again, it's about communicating their scale and their massive height. Sometimes it's good to find like little shapes in here. To kind of illuminate, and I'm wondering if there's any opportunities. Like we kind of have it right there, if there's more opportunities, especially on this side, to get like a little kick of light on some of these objects, just to make it feel to really emphasize that sense of scale. And then, does anybody else have any thoughts on this? I should open it up to the floor a little bit. I think this is looking good. Yeah, and I like the way that these two are playing off each other. Maybe just pull back a little bit on the saturation of the orange color inside some of these windows, like just about like 10% pull back on that. But I think everything else is looking really good. And maybe I'm looking at this chimney and I'm wondering if there's more of a variation we can get in there too. I'm not quite sure. But yeah. But all in all, I think this is looking great. Somebody chimed in. Or somebody just unmuted.
Really pretty.
Yeah, isn't it? It's good. This is really pretty. That's what I should have just said. I should have just opened it and said, "This is really pretty," and that's it. I've just been like, that's the thesis of it.
And the tops of the trees.
What's that?
The tops of the trees, they just look so pretty.
Yeah. There's like snow on trees is really hard, and it's like and you've done a really good job of like. There's like a lot of variation in here. I almost think we might be able to go a little bit cooler on this side, like in the fill side, but overall, I think they look really good. Oh, before I forget, let me hop over into Chris had a submission that I wanted to start off with, but I did not. So Chris, I wanted to so you were having an issue with basically when you were layering these together. There was an issue with like her eyelashes. Basically the alpha wasn't lining up, and I wanted to kind of talk through this process a little bit. And like when you were like blurring the background, it wasn't quite cutting out around her eyelashes well enough. And what I want to do is I want to look at the alpha channel of this versus like these puzzle mats that you've created. And this is where the problem lies. So the way that hair and that these hair bodies are created, it's like a flat plane with a hair material on it with transparency cut out of the material. So it's a solid object, but the alpha is actually being cut out by the shader itself. If you add a matte, or if like you just add a matte layer, you lose that transparency. So that's this. I'm looking at this matte pass, and so it's that's the issue that you're going to run into, is that you lose the transparency on those edges pretty much all across the board on all of them. And so your edge isn't going to quite be right. So what I mean, like there are a couple different ways you can deal with this. You could do something like a channel copy channel and bring in the alpha from this one inside. And now you can actually, and now you're actually bringing in the alpha, like you're actually swapping out the alphas. Also, like the one thing that you were trying to do was blur this against the background. And literally, if you just kind of blur the elements in here before it even happens, you really won't have to worry about it. And then any adjustments that you make to the characters, you can make before they get merged over this blur, and then it shouldn't be that much of an issue. The one thing I will advise you on to watch out for is watch out for including this the candle with the haze all in this pass, because once those are kind of baked together, it's hard to separate them if you want to make adjustments to it.
Okay.
Something else too. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It stinks. Like this is one of the hard parts about working with this stuff is when you start to deal with transparencies in the alphas and then like running separate passes. I think that crypto, like if you do it as like in Arnold and just use like the standard crypto mat, I think that will pick up the transparency on the edges, but I'd have to double check that.
I also have the option to do a material ID as opposed to an object ID on
Yeah.
for the puzzle mat. I'm not sure if that would respect it or not, but I didn't even think to try that.
Try it based on the material because that might do it. I'm not sure.
I don't think it will.
You don't think it will?
No.
Yeah, I was kind of second guessing that as I was saying it out loud. Because you like sometimes with that stuff you like sometimes you'll just have to make a custom mat for that. That's like a shader that's pure green, but also has the alpha built into it.
Okay.
So.
All right, I'll try the copy channel then.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, let's hop into. We have Isabelle next. This is Isabelle's first submission for the Power of Light. We have this reference image of light coming in the window, hitting these apples. I think. I think by default, I think out of the gate, her like she's seeing the right things. Like this is brighter than you would probably make it if you weren't looking at reference. But checking out this reference, it does clip out a little bit. It does go that bright. The one thing that we're really missing is more of those, excuse me, the secondary effects of that, like the amount of light that's bouncing up underneath here, and that amount of like warm light. I really want to see that in these objects. It almost feels like it hits the ground and kind of dies. And when you have that much energy, that much light energy hitting something, it's really gonna not just bounce in intensity. It's gonna bounce. Like kind of the warmth, A from the warm sun and B from the warm tabletop. We don't quite have that same warmth from the tabletop, but the warmth of the color of the light should drive into it a little bit. I mean, like you see it a little bit. It's just not as strong as I would suggest, or as strong as I would expect. So the options would either be to make sure that you're actually rendering secondary bounces, and this is an Arnold and all that. The other option is then to add like an area light kind of down here, or under the ground that ignores the ground and shines up light through the ground and creates more of that warm bounce on the objects. The other thing that I wanted to point out was the kind of like we've got this table here and then this darkened area here. That dark area actually does help kind of frame, like the table and that area do kind of help frame up this image. And so I'm wondering if there isn't an opportunity to darken, if you could figure out a way to darken back there, and that'll help drag our eye back towards the center of this. Yeah, and I think that those are the two main areas I would focus in on. But you're doing a good job of getting that gobo shape. It's not like quite the same. Like we've got a stronger angle here where this feels pretty straight down. But I like where your head's at. You really do seem to be going in the right direction there. All right. So next up we have Kat. So Kat these are some full res. We're looking at the ground, and she also added some ambient occlusion in these last few images. There's more shadowing on the face, which is good. I want to see it play out. It feels better than it was before. My only concern is I see this, which feels like and this, which feels very, very sharp. So I would just be careful of that. As you're going through, just make sure there's not like super hard lines on their faces, and allow that shadow to go a little softer. I love the specularity on the hair, looks good. If you could get some depth of field in there too, I think that'd be rad. I'm not sure if you want to add it, because like it would just help focus this in on the main characters a little bit more. This again, this one feels a little flat, but I'm guessing it's just because of that light shining from the robot's face there. As I'm clicking through these, I'll stay quiet here for a second. Do you guys have any thoughts on this? Do you guys have any suggestions for Kat as she moves forward?
I have a question. So right there in this image,
Yeah.
my eye kind of goes to those bright white lights at the top.
Mm-hmm.
Should those be brought down at all, you think?
I think I'm wondering if, like, here's the thing. So like if we start to bring those down, they start to not feel like light sources that are going to illuminate. We're going to kind of lose one thing or the other. So I think they can come down a little bit, but then I'm afraid that we're going to lose the brightness where they really do feel like glowing, illuminating lights. It almost feels like to me, I guess in this shot at this point we're focusing back on the character. Yeah, I think it's okay. It might be a matter of I'm trying to think of like, would volumetric light kind of framing her work a little bit better? Maybe they're creating more. Maybe it's just like about creating more of a haze back behind her that she kind of cuts out in front of. Yeah, I think that's something we're just gonna have to work with. I think they're gonna have to be that bright. That's a good call. It's also nice that these lines are kind of leaning back here. These lines are leaning back here. These lines are leaning back here. It's all kind of, and then it gets dark, and then she's allowed her whiter form is allowed to pop off. Normally, like if this was a still, I would say not worry about getting her that bright, but I think it kind of makes her angelic here at the end of the animation. So I think it's working out pretty well. That's a good question though. Basically, it's like you kind of. I mean, you can do things like you make the light flicker and turn off, or you can do something like that. It would also be kind of cool in this pose if we got a little bit of that white rim on her, just kind of define her silhouette a little bit more. But all in all, I think it's coming together. All right, and the next up we have Mercy. So for this one, two things. Number one is that I think that it feels a little too saturated overall. Like the lips and the color of the eyes feel a little bit saturated and a little bit punchy. I would pull back on the saturation a little bit. The shaping on the face is looking a lot better. I'm wondering what this light's coming through that's getting inside of her nose there. That might just be the subsurface scattering popping through. But we're getting good shaping coming across here. A couple of the biggest things to work on. The eye white is getting a little bit too bright on both sides. I would take that eye ding and flip it to the other side because we've got the light source coming in from the opposite direction. I would also put in a little bit of a subtle rim on her on this backside, just because it's as we get the shaping coming across her face, which looks a lot better, and we start to get into some of this darkness, like some of these areas are getting a little bit flat, and bringing in just like a really subtle rim on that side will help create more shaping over there. And I think, you know what, more than just the eyes, I think this key light might be a little bit too bright now. Yeah. Also, this is interesting. Because the light's kind of coming in from here, but we have a shadow here. Whatever light's causing this shadow, we'll probably need to soften a little bit. Because it now feels like she's being hit more with like a frontal, almost like a headlight, coming at kind of a low angle. So I would just soften that shadow so it doesn't feel like the key light's coming directly in front of her. I would also run an ambient occlusion pass and just check to see if we can get maybe a little bit more shadowing inside of her shirt here, around her neck area. Yeah. Any other thoughts before we move on? All right. Okay, so next up we have Austin. This was yours, correct?
Yeah.
Yes. Awesome. Cool. Yeah. Sorry, I grabbed these and I just like copied and pasted them, and I realized now that I forgot to put names on them. So this is the newer version. We've got the previous one. Really beautiful. Again, I should say that like with Julia's, I should just start and say it looks really lovely and just leave it at that. Because it does. It looks great. I think your biggest challenge now is just tackling some of these technical issues with the fireflies and some of the noise in it, and getting that ready for the final submission. Because like there's also like a little bit of like something green over there, like kind of right here on the edge. I'm not quite sure what that is. So you may just have to check into that. But I love the color you've chosen for the interior of the cabin. I think that's warm, but believable. It's like it's a really nice, a nice subtle color. I'm wondering if maybe just pushing a little bit more light on the tree, on this tree here, like, because I'm just thinking about it in terms of like if there's a window on this side of the house, especially down kind of like lower in here, it would be cool if it was like more of a direct connection with like a window on that side, like a little bit of a bright light right there. The moonlight looks really pretty. Like this tree looks great.
I wanted to say point that tree out.
Yeah, that tree looks
looks-
great, right?
Like, yeah, it looks like real moonlight.
Yeah,
Or in my head, yeah.
yeah. It's really it's the intensity that you've gotten on the moonlight is like you dialed that in really really nicely.
Thank you.
But yeah, it's
I
great.
wonder if the far background is a little saturated.
Yeah, that's a good call.
A little. With green,
Yeah,
but yeah, I don't know what the iterations look like.
no, that's a good call. I would shift that a little bit, a little less green, a little more to the blues. I like it's funny. It's like I usually would say like make sure to add some dapple of moonlight back there, but I think it actually works really well with the composition here. So I'm just gonna let that be. I think that's really good. All right, cool. Really great job, Austin.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for dealing with fireflies? I've been trying to, but I don't know.
Yes. So I know Jordan Osborne had the exact same thing. I forget off the top of my head. It's in here somewhere. How
That was
he
the
dealt.
coat.
What was that?
The coat and the snow
Yes.
material
Yes. The coat.
is.
Okay, I'll just shut up. Go ahead, Diana.
No. I think the roughness was too low. Like that's what usually causes fireflies. So either like increase the roughness, or you could even turn off the coat. I think is what he did. But
Yeah, I think give that a try because I think that was because there have been a few people that have had that issue.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, you're very welcome. All right, and now let's see. Oh, we have another. Oh, 11:25. Just kidding. Okay, so now we have Carl's up here. So we have a update versus the previous version. I love look at this, guys. Look how much that just little bit of rim light on those trees really helps out. I think that looks really good. I'm thinking that the purple in the foreground might be a little bit too saturated. It feels a little bit heavy. I also think that the wash that's happening, the diffusion that's happening on this house is a little bit too universal. I showed in yesterday's video, if you don't know how to do this, how to isolate that to just the bright values. I would do that and get that because right now it's just it's almost like it's making the house hazy and a little bit blurry. So I would just isolate those down a little bit more. And any other thoughts on this one? Yeah, I like the pocket of light here. It feels pretty good in there. All right, Alfredo. Oh, this is a good. Hello. Okay. Let's just take a look here. The environment looks crazy good. That looks really pretty. Yeah, there's a good amount of haze. I feel like there's depth back there. It feels like there's snow, like there's flurries floating around out there. As we get in the foreground, I think there's some more work that could be done on the cabin itself. I think that would be my main area of focus. A few things like it gets a little bit like there's a few things. Let me actually open this in Photoshop. There's an edge going on to the edge of this. There's something problematic there that's creating almost like an outline. It might be a Z depth thing. It might be a layering thing. Just check out that. If you look at these trees that are right around the house, the snow on them feels very icy and very specky and a little bit rough right in there. I think that we can do what some others have done, which is like the kind of core value of this one looks good, but I would push a little bit of the warm light from inside the house onto that. And yeah, these back here just feel too saturated cyan, and could use a little bit of darkening overall from the exterior light, and then perhaps push a little bit of the interior light on them. Inside this room, like I see that there's like the nice rim on the windows and it's kind of glowing through the snow there, which is nice. I want to see a little bit more of the light influencing the room up there. It's kind of similar to what we're seeing down here. Just squinting at this. Yeah, but it's just because the environment's so dynamic that I think that the house would have to match from there. I think the house basically you're raising the bar to pretty high with the environment, and we got to get the house up to match it. Just watch out for like this tree here. Like some of those dark values really kind of stand out. I would just like lift the darks on the trunk of that tree. And then watch out, like there's this kind of sharp reflection there. Just watch out for that. Any other thoughts on this one?
The environment looks really big.
Right?
Just cool.
It's great.
Yeah.
Like I opened, I was like, my first thought was that you found a background plate. Like for everything, like for basic, mostly for this area, everything kind of back behind that line looks really, really good. Yeah, just clean up some of that other stuff and you'll have a great image. All right, guys. That's Friday. That's actually the entire month of July. So thank you guys for joining. So again, get those submissions in by the end of the day tomorrow. Sunday is going to be a rare break in our lighting challenges. We usually just like keep them rolling, but when the submission dates fall on the weekend, we usually wait until Monday to announce the new one. But be on the lookout for that. Like I said, it's very cool. It's I think it's our first time doing it's an animation of a large animal that's just like hopping into a tree. That's going to be very cool. So, but the animation is dynamic, and I mean, it's not like dynamic like the robot fight from the last one. It's just very, very professionally perfect looking animation. So that's all I'll say about it. So be on the lookout for that for Monday. Thank you guys all very much. If you have any questions, fire away, and I'll be make sure to checking the Discord channel the rest of the day. So thank you all very much again, and I will see you all very soon.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.